I don't think the enemy is that powerful to rewrite God's will for you. If we get in our own heads, alter our own responses because we're just down in the dumps, that will do more damage to our hearts and to our path than the enemy's attacks. But if you don't feel that connection, you might not feel this epiphany right off your first conversation that this is your future spouse. Welcome back to the Dear Future Husband podcast. I'm your host, Christian, and I'm so glad you're here today. Many of you submitted questions that we will be tackling in today's Q&A episode. It's season 5, and I'm so amazed that we are in 5 seasons that's been going on for the last few years, and I'm so thankful that this has become a space where we can ask questions. We can have some of that, hey girl, what do you think of this? Or what does the Bible say on this hard truth and matter? And we can just come together and really hound those out. And so this is just me starting off by saying thank you for being here. Thank you for lending your questions and making this a space where we can encourage one another. As I alluded to, I asked a question on our Instagram page, which pause, if you are not already part of that, I'd love to invite you to join us at the handle, the Dear Future Husband podcast. Long, but you can remember it. I believe in you. Join us there because we post pictures, we post prayers, we post funny, relatable reels, we post highlights from these episodes that you can save, rewatch, and share with friends. So I'd encourage you to go there, meet some other girls in your season of life, maybe with the questions that you have. This week I posted a story and I said, hey, what questions do you guys have? What have we tackled that you want to know more on or that we haven't jumped into yet that you're saying, I need to know the answers to these questions? We're going to be tackling your questions right here, right now. Let's jump into the first question. You all came through and shared your questions. We have so many that I know we won't be able to get to all of them, but that's the beautiful thing about this platform is we can respond to those online. We can make more videos. We can tackle them in the rest of season 5. But today we are going to jump into a few, and I would love to hear from you guys. Which questions were you like, oh my goodness, I was wondering that too, or we need a follow-up full episode on this topic. As always, leave a comment below. Let me know what your thoughts are. I love hearing from you. And let's jump into question number 1 from you guys. Question number 1 coming in from Ruthie. If you don't feel a connection, it doesn't mean you missed the right person, right? Well, I'll go ahead and put it out there that only God can 100% confirm to you if that is the right person. But there's going to be some other determining factors and voices that can confirm that as well. You're going to have this inner peace if you are really surrendering that to the Lord. You're going to have people around you, family, mentors, friends that are going to confirm that. And I believe they'll also confirm it by the peace that they feel. Are they coming to the equation? Do they rise to the challenge? Do they want to marry you and they see that through? But if you don't feel that connection, I'm curious on that. Is that you didn't feel the connection after a few first dates? You didn't feel the spark when they first asked you out? If it is the latter, then I would say you might not feel this epiphany right off your first conversation that this is your future spouse. And a lot of the connection we allude to is often physical. Now, there is spiritual elements, especially if, hey, you are a woman here that's been praying for a long time and you're asking God for clarity, for signs. Even early on, hey, I did that. I shared that in our last episode, how I did that with my husband, even before we met. But if we don't feel that right off the bat or 100%, I would encourage you, let's feel this out. One, because there's so much things to decipher through for that person, and then just for our own evaluation, that I don't think you always just get this 100% peace right away. But there should be a connection to keep it going. And I don't think that should be fabricated or just forced because you're ready to meet the right person. Forcing a connection will not make them the right person. So I would say if you're not feeling that connection, then you probably are doing the right thing of saying, hey, I'm not going to force this. Maybe you're a great person, but you're just not my person. Because more often than not, you're going to meet people that are not your spouse because you have this one beautiful marriage. And so it's okay if you encounter someone that is not that person. You don't have to cling to them like oh, there's so many fish in the sea, but it doesn't feel like it. So please be my fish. But what I would encourage us is enable enough time to really make sure that connection's there, and don't let the connection only be physical. Think of it maybe like you're packing for a trip, you're going on vacation. Yes, you're going to get the swimsuit in there and like the really cute dinner time outfits, but you also need a pair of sweatpants. I always do this. I think, okay, we're going to the beach and then we're going to go to dinners. And then most of the time I'm lounging around thinking, well, what am I going to wear 75% of the other time? So it can be easy to focus on the big ticket items that we want in a connection, but remember the longevity and the essentials are also needed too. Ashley asked, do you think the enemy can try to attack and prevent us from meeting our future husband? Absolutely. But here's the thing, he can try. Now, if we just think, oh man, I'm single because the enemy is spiritual attack and he's keeping me from my husband, I don't think he's that powerful to rewrite God's will for you. And his voice should not be louder, his lies should not be louder than the voice of God in your life. So will there be things that will feel like spiritual tension coming against you? Yes. My husband and I the night before our wedding, we got into a disagreement over the stress and the little things. Like, yeah, probably that was some spiritual component of, oh, this is a great marriage. There's these things coming against us, but we're going to defy the odds. But there's also the reality of there's just going to be times where if you're single, especially, you can be distracted. You can be tempted to settle. You could be tempted to go a different route. You could be tempted to give in to doubt. These are all maybe the enemy's attacks, but they're also just human obstacles that we continue to deny the flesh. We continue to renew our mind. We continue to have faith in obstacles where it'd be easy to doubt, or just to let counterintuitive voices or tendencies creep up. However, you very well could be going through a hidden season, and I'm sure a lot of people resonate to that feeling of feeling like, on paper, I should have already met my spouse. I'm doing the things right, and it feels like I'm not meeting anyone. But I'm encouraged, and I hope you are too, by Joseph's story. He very much had a hidden season, going through the time of being a servant, going through the time in Potiphar's house, going through the time in the prison cell, and all that time thinking, man, I am just camped out. The enemy has trapped me and isolated me, and this just makes no sense. But all of that worked out to where he later, when he had this faith in God that did not falter in that season, he continued to bless the Lord and speak of his name, to interpret the dreams, and all of that eventually led to the very place he's supposed to be. You know, this is applicable to not just if you feel like spiritual attacks in your singleness or your dating, but in all areas of life. Is if we see the attack or the tension is more powerful than the destination, it can wear us down, or it can weary us our steps as we're going to that place. But I don't believe that the enemy is powerful enough to keep you from your husband. I think if we get in our own heads, we alter our own responses because we're just down in the dumps, that will do more damage to our hearts and to our path than the enemy's attacks. So trust that the Lord is leading you. Trust that there is a good destination ahead, and sticking to the principles and the character that God's placed within you will counteract any attempt of that there may be. Any weapon formed against you shall not prosper. Believe that, contend in that. And there's honestly just being transparent. If you do feel like, oh, spiritual attacks my singleness, that doesn't just stop when you start dating or get married. So how can you wage war right now? How can you be strong in your faith? What character can be built within you in this season? Focus more on what is coming and what is being cultivated than what just feels like, a hidden season. I know, easier said than done, but I'm saying if you want to get married and you want to continue to walk in this way and see God do things in your relationships and in your life, let that fire forge something within you. Little bonus question. Ashley also asked, what are some prayer prompts or different ways I can pray for my future husband? You will find many of those on our Instagram page at the Dear Future Husband podcast, where we have different prompts on areas of his life, areas of your relationship, areas for your life. So I'd encourage you to go look at those and stay tuned for some resources maybe coming in the next few months. Just saying, subscribe so you're in the know for those. Question number 3. Madison asks, how did you incorporate reading the word while dating, and did you pray together? I think there are going to be different answers on the latter part of that question, and I'm open to hearing those too. I do not think my way or our way is verbatim. Some people would say, I'll just show both accounts here. Some people would say, don't pray together at all until you're married because of the spiritual intimacy, which very much is a real thing. But to me, we wanted to be united, even spiritually, without being overtly intimate. You think of soul ties, you think of emotional ties, there could be the spiritual tie, but I didn't want something to be dormant and then just expect it to be spiritually aligned after like the day we got married, like a complete on off. So we were long distance. We would pray together over the phone. We wouldn't like be in a dark, intimate room, lay hands on each other. You know what I mean? Like there was protection and boundaries. We would pray with his family. I remember I went through a health thing when we were dating. We would all pray together in that moment. So I think if we're going to be super almost legalistic about it, like, is there ever a time where you and a male pastor have prayed together? Are you going to say, oh, because he's a male, we cannot pray together because of spiritual intimacy? Or is it we prayed together in church, other people were there, like it was more of a spiritual thing than an intimate thing? So that's my take on it, is if you are dating someone well into the stage of maybe you're engaged or you have been dating for a long time, you've prayed together over the phone or at church or something of that nature, but definitely don't make intimacy or don't make praying together a way to become a slippery slope, because I think that's just perverting something so sacred and beautiful. But when we were engaged, yeah, we prayed together. We prayed for our marriage. We prayed for clarity. We prayed, for health, all kind of things. And it never led to anything strange. If anything, it aided our peace. I know some couples will go through like Bible studies together. They'll be in a small group together, so there's other people around. There's so many things like that I think if we see it through a lens of community and building for clarity, then it can be really great. Of course, there's going to be times where it's made weird or uncautious or uses like a blanket statement, or uses some type of cover up. I'm not going to pretend that doesn't happen, but I don't think you need to completely separate from, the faith building aspects together when you are in that serious dating, courting, or engagement season. As far as reading the word together, there was times where we would be at work or we'd go on hikes or something like that, and we would bring our Bibles. We'd read there around each other, but we didn't read the same Bible. But I very much still to this day have my own Bible. He has his own Bible. We go through those. If there's something that he was illuminated to him, he'll share with me. And I love seeing that of like how God's speaking to him, what he illuminates, because you can read the same verse one year and read it a year later and it speaks something different. So he can read a verse and I can read it and it can spark different things. And so I loved seeing how the Lord would speak to him and that there was an authentic reciprocation and soaking in of what he was reading. So I think that maybe if you're cautious on actually praying together, why don't you just have times where you talk about what the Lord's doing, what he's showing you, what has happened in your prayers or your quiet time. And I think that's a really beautiful expression of faith illuminated, and you get to see that special part within them. And as many of you know, I also had, along with my own Bible that I would spend and pray to God in and read the word, I had a husband's Bible. That's what I was praying through in singleness before I even met Arden, up through dating, and I gave to him on our wedding day. And look, I know so many of you are asking about the husband's Bible. Like, tell me more. How can I do it? Where can I get it? I will say this. I'm not withholding the answers from you, but there has been a new way I found I can better share this with you guys, but I have to wait a little bit longer to share. I will say this, if you're really eager to get started on your husband's Bible journey, just grab a Bible, start praying over your future husband, maybe illuminate some words and verses in there that you're praying over him. But I have something coming for you guys. Please stay tuned. That'll make the husband's Bible. I'll give you the full scope of what I did to use it, and I will give you a way to actually use yours better. So stay tuned. That's coming out very soon. And I'm so glad you're interested in it, and I cannot wait to share this with you. It'll be worth the wait, I promise. Make sure you're subscribed so that I can share that with you, because when I tell you I've been so excited to finally share this with the Dear Future Husband community, I mean it, and it's worth the wait. We have another bonus question: how to get over the one you thought God sent for you. Maddie Pruitt, my cousin, and I did a video on that recently, a few episodes back. So I'd encourage you to go watch that, because I think that's one of those where it can go a lot longer, and I think you'd find a lot of encouragement there. Okay, I have a question that keeps coming up in different routes, but I have one directly from Mia. How do I stop the anxious spiral every time I talk to a new guy? Pair that with the women that are asking questions about how do I not feel so anxious in dating? What do I do when I feel like I'm just wasting time and nothing's happening? So in singleness or dating, having this anxiousness is not very, it doesn't feel very good to you, and it's not very beneficial for producing peace and clarity. Now, friend, please hear me out. I am not saying shame on you for feeling that way, but I'm saying you probably already know this. It can feel like this tension, like you're holding your breath, waiting for something to happen. And we don't want to turn blue. We don't want to feel like we're exhausting our options. We don't want to feel like we have to live in this moment, or else what's going to happen? We're going to have to learn to fight for this contentness. And I think the biggest thing I will say that could be helpful for if you're in that season is feeling like, oh, because I don't feel content, something's wrong with me. Or because I don't feel content, I must have missed it a long time ago. I do not believe that to be true, because I don't think there is one timeline, one route, one perfect age for you to get married. It is very unique to all of us, but the principles of being content where we are is something that's going to be beneficial for us for life. If you go through a season of not being able to have children at the time you thought, if you go through a season of not getting the job or having to wait on something big to move in your life, that same principle reigns true. It doesn't mean, oh, you missed it and you're going to feel this quaking forever. Going back specifically to what Mia was saying and feeling this like all these bubbles rising inside of you when you first start talking to someone. Maybe you're not even talking, but they're just talking to you and you're thinking, maybe they might ask me out. When you go on a roller coaster, you're going up, 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 and your heart's racing, and then you start to go, and then it's just like this queasy feeling. I think you can get excited. You can be expectant in dating, but what we want is this contentness that's more steady, so you're able to evaluate. You don't feel sick to your stomach. You have the stability within you that one just garners a better peace and a better feeling within. And you may be thinking, great, I'd love that too. How do I do that? The mastery that I think we all long for in our season of singleness, no matter how long it is the mastery of being content, of waiting well. And I know we don't like the word waiting because it feels like we're just sitting on our hands and it's out of our control, but it is. It is out of our control, and you honestly want it that way, because if you're controlling all of it, then there's no room for the divine. There's no room for, God-based love stories, and it'd be a lot easier if it was all in our control, but it wouldn't be as fruitful. I'm always amazed when I read Philippians 4 and Paul says, I've learned to be content in every season, because I'm not naturally that way. I go more than 2 hours without eating and I get hungry and I'm very hangry. And I'm like, okay, control myself, be content, wait well for dinner, don't just snack. And it's this discipline that any form of waiting, I think, can present itself, of having to remind ourselves, faith over flesh, remember the purpose, remember the why. And sometimes that why is so beneficial when it comes to the dating, the singleness. Yeah, I'm remembering my why. Does that necessarily mean it gets always easier or it makes it come faster? No, but it helps me at my part in the waiting. We can't control all the deliverables of when he comes, where we're at, how good we look when we first meet him. Maybe you'll be hair up in a bun, checking your mail. You never know. But we can control the controllables. So how are we responding in that time of waiting? I want you to be able to wait well. And look, waiting well does not mean sitting still, doing nothing, just putting your life on pause until something happens. It's making something happen where you are, making the right things come alive, focusing and attending to our why and to what we can do. It's choosing to grow emotionally, spiritually, physically, relationally, faithfully as you become the person that you want to meet. Being a future wife, praying for your husband before he's even here. These are ways to be proactive, patient, and fulfilled, and peace-led, even in the waiting of, I don't know when it's going to happen, or maybe this could be it, but I'm remembering my why. I'm not going to get ahead of myself. I'm going to be focused. And for me, one of the best things I can do continually in a season of waiting or eagerness or disappointment is to remind myself Psalm 23:6. Surely your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Surely the Lord's faithfulness is not stopped just at my account. Surely his goodness goes before and behind me. I can trust in his story, and I can trust that at the end of the day, my biggest need in life, my salvation, was already met. So I can definitely entrust the little things to him. He has already been more than gracious to me in all of my life in so many ways. And remember that. Think back on the ways that the Lord met you where you are, where he healed you when you needed it, when he restored something that had been lost. Reminding ourselves feels like gratitude and just says, okay, yeah, God's got this. No need to worry. And know this, the trick is not to just be content with being single, but to be content with where you are now. Because there's a very good chance if you desire for marriage that you will be married one day. So you don't have to have this hunker down and just be single mindset, but your mindset is, Lord, you have me single right now. I'm going to trust that that's a gift. I'm going to be content with it. I'm going to be fruitful with that gift right now. Question from Sid. I believe this is officially question number 5. She says, encouragement for the girl who has filled 5 prayer journals, but no future husband in sight. Before I offer encouragement, I'm just going to say I feel that discouragement. I feel that frustration. I can only imagine what that season's looked like for you. And I just want to say it's okay to admit that waiting can be hard, especially when you're praying faithfully, filling up 5 prayer journals, maybe watching other people find their person. That's tough. I'm comforted that God comforts us in the middle of frustrations or discouragements, and that he hears those quiet aches. He sees that frustration, that he hears the cries at night. If you're at that stage of just lamenting to God, where is this? I'm ready for that season. And even still in the middle of that aching heart moment, he invites you to find joy here in the now, not only when the answer is fulfilled, but as the answer is being written, as the preface, the precursor to your love story is unfolding in front of you. I think if I was going to offer some encouragement, it could be that everything can change in a moment. And often we don't know those moments until they hit us. They feel like they're light years away when it could be tomorrow, when it could be in 2 months. We never know, but our faith aspect is contending and moving forth as if it has already happened, believing in faith that the good thing God has promised us, whether that is a marriage or it is just for him to be near us through it, that has already happened. And none of the faith walk is ever fully easy. And I'd say when it's easy, it's easier to be away from God, but he's close to the brokenhearted, because I think that dependency on him is something so beautiful, of keeping that closeness, of seeing his character unfold, of being just so reminded of his presence and comforted by that, right? One of the great things about going through a season of delay is seeing, as you look back, it was God's strength that was carrying me. Isaiah 40, they will mount up on wings like eagles. Like, Lord, I have given so much to this already. I'm going to need you to keep me soaring, because right now I feel like I'm dragging my feet. But I know with you, you will keep me above ground. You will keep me going on the right path ahead. As we look through the Bible, I think if you look through the lens of, Lord, can something happen overnight, seemingly or literally overnight? Can you make a way where it looks like there's no way? We see countless stories of God just showing up. And that speaks to anyone in any season, any circumstance, as God is in the midst of things before we even realize it. I mean, crazy examples, actually, if you think about it. King Hezekiah, when they were at battle with the Assyrian army, and he's praying, Lord, will you just give us victory? And that night, an angel of the Lord just demolishes the enemy. Like, instances like that, to even when Moses was in Egypt and they're going through plague after plague, and Pharaoh is sticking his foot in the ground, and then overnight he's like, okay, fine, take your Israeli people, get out of here, go. There's so many moves that can just happen, and the one change of course can set you on a new path and can illuminate new steps in front of you. And I think of the verse Psalm 35 where it says, weeping may endure for the night, but joy comes in the morning. And I think that can be true, whether that is your circumstance is going to change really rather quickly, or it is going to be this continual slow thing, or if it doesn't happen, the idea of, we're going to have those times of feeling low, but what is our response each day? The word says that his mercies are new every day. And I'd have to take that for myself and say, okay, if his mercies are new every day, I've got to let some of my pain be in the past. I have to choose each day to show up, to remember that he is good, to be the person he's called me to be, whether that is with or without the thing that I'm believing for right now. Who has he called me to be? 2 Kings 25 says, this is what the Lord, the God of your father David says, I have heard your prayer and seen your tears. My biggest encouragement would be that the Lord hears every prayer you pray. He hears every tear. He hears every laugh. He hears every request. And just taking the full assurance of that, of the creator of the world, hears your longing. You're presenting your request at the most powerful person's feet. And so trusting in that, in the longevity of just being in his protection, in his arms, and being led by his voice is the best place we can be. Andrea says, how to bring up non-negotiable like no drinking alcohol or certain theological stances. Love that you are strong in your theological and faith walk. So if you go on your second or third date and they don't mention a single thing about faith, their relationship with God, I can gather that that's not really as important to them or as mature. And so maybe ask a question about it, but also evaluate if this person is presenting to me who they are, what's important to them, and this isn't coming up, maybe we're not aligned. Some of the things I think should be obvious without even questions, but so like if they are dating, if they're showing up or to the date intoxicated, or they're like, yeah, I went out partying last week, I think it could actually be rude to save that for like the fourth date of, hey, this is my non-negotiable, so take it or leave it. Once you've already been there, if you see something that is a strong disagreement, say, hey, I've noticed this, this is what I believe. What are your stances? Maybe have a conversation about it. So don't close it, but also don't pry too early. Let that evaluation take place and then ask deeper questions to confirm. So that's probably a good way to put it, is be assessing through the first few dates what they present. And then if you see something that is just, we cannot avoid this, ask kindly. Remember, tone is also important as timing. You don't want to ask in an accusatory way or just, hey, I saw this one instance of this thing. That must mean you do this, or I'm not interested. Just ask a question. What do you believe about this? Do you do this for fun? Is this something you are okay with? Ask questions around it. Bonus question, can women ask men on the first date? We also did a podcast on that. Scroll back just a few episodes back, and that is a longer evaluation of my answer to you. Last question for this round. There's so many that I think we might have to bring this back as a part 2. Let me know if you have any other questions you would want to add on to that in the comments below. Last question, what to do if a non-Christian asks you on a date and wants to get to know you? Say no and leave. I'm just kidding. Look, this is something where I don't think you should be unequally yoked in your relationship. The dating, even just category, is so strange because you could be talking, dating, just getting to know someone. So if someone approaches you and says, hey, I'm really intrigued by you. I'd love to get to know you better. They're not a believer. It's okay to spend time with them. Like maybe you just grab coffee or you invite them to hang out with you and your friends. Now, should you just leap into something where it's going to be this really romantic date, or you already think, man, they're really cute, or I really like his personality, maybe I'll just say yes and see what happens. If you go in thinking, oh, there's already like, maybe I can missionary date, and be honest with yourself. We do that sometimes. I've been there. I felt that. If you go into that lens, it's just problematic, because what are you going to do? Again, almost like the first question, how are you going to bring up something that is a non-negotiable or is very important? later after already different foundations have been set. If you respond to that person and say, hey, you're a great person, I've loved getting to know you, I'd love to hang out, there's this friend gathering going on, there's this, let's do something casual, that's fine. But if you know they're asking you out in a romantic way, you can tell they already have an interest there, I would preface and say, hey, with my faith, I want to marry someone that is alike in that. Now, if you'd like to go to church with us in this group and you want to learn more, hey, maybe they're just intrigued by your faith and they do want to get to know you in a friend's capacity, or they're on that brink of deciding for themselves. That's wonderful. But I would just be cautious to present it romantically if that's not fully there. And I would say I was in this position one time when I was single, and I think I would do it differently now because I saw this was a great person, had a great friendship with them, very kind. And I think there might have been some interest in faith there. And I feel like I might have actually just been a blockade to that, or a fog almost, if you will. And so what I wish I would have done rather is, instead of having these conversations with this person and hanging out before, I would have rather invited them, like, hey, come, yeah, you want to see me, or you have questions about faith? Cool, come to church with me. Like, let's get you connected with another guy that you can talk to, or let you see it first and foremost. Like, there were some great conversations I had with this person, but they weren't, well, obviously the relationship wasn't fruitful, but also I don't feel like the faith aspect, like, I wish I could have been a better friend to them in that season and met them where the interest could have been by directing them to a better path. And so I would say, yeah, be friends, have good conversations. You know, you never know how the Lord can plant a seed. But if you let the relational, romantic side fog things knowingly, then I think you're going to come to find later ramifications for you and for them. So proceed with caution, be expectant, but also be wise. Now, I have a question for you. Have you subscribed yet? Because I don't want you to miss another episode, including if we do a part 2 on these questions. So make sure you're subscribed and leave a comment if you do have a question and there's something within this episode, or you've just been wondering. I'd love to hear from you and tackle those when we do another Q&A. And until next Thursday, I will see you then. My name is Christian, and thank you for joining the Dear Future Husband podcast.